Hi, this is Maggie from Design Code Debug Repeat. Thank you for stopping by my channel. Today I'm going to work on the tangram program a little bit more, and I'm really picking up from where I left off before. Previously I had done the rotation, so I got the image rotating, or the shape rotating rather. So it's got a rotation control, and you can see the rotation control jumps when I start rotating it. That's because I just sort of, we'll say, cobbled or kludged that thing on there, just so I had a control that was stuck to the shape so I could rotate it. Now I don't intend to have the rotation control be something that is drawn separately. Eventually I will draw my own tangrams and I will have the rotation controls drawn onto them. So I'm thinking that maybe I'll make them look like wood or stone, and the rotation controls will look like depressions, basically. So something that you could put your finger in and turn. But I have a class called rotation control, and it's a sprite, and the reason I've done that is because I want to use the collision detection to determine whether the user has clicked inside the rotation control. So right now it's a sprite that draws itself, but once I have these rotation controls actually drawn onto my shapes, then it will be basically an invisible sprite. It will never draw itself, but it will still have a bounding rectangle. We'll still be able to do collision detection. So what I want to do today is just fix the location of the thing so that I can get it drawn properly. And I'm going to have them draw themselves as I continue to develop this, just to make sure that they are always in the correct location and basically debug them. Because once they're invisible, I won't know if they're in the correct location, except I try to click on one and the thing doesn't respond correctly. So I just want to fix that drawing today. So let's take a look at how this is implemented right now, and then we'll talk about how to fix it. So right now you might have noticed that it draws in one location, which I think is the better location, when the program first starts up, and then it draws in a weird location once I start rotating, and that's where it stays. So here's the location where I think is pretty decent. Once I start rotating, it jumps to the corner and it stays there. Why is that? Well, when I'm locating it during rotation, I'm going to draw again, even though my drawing is terrible, but we'll just do this really quickly here. So when we're drawing during rotation, I'm locating it using basically polar coordinates. I'm using a radius to the center, between the center of the shape and the center of the rotation control, and then an angle. So we've got R and theta. And let's just always locate it that way, because that makes more sense. We can easily calculate the XY coordinate of the center from R and theta, and then what we'll do is when we initialize it, we'll pass in that R and theta, and so we'll be able to do that for a rotation control over here. That'll have the same R and an equivalent theta. You know, we know this is about 153 degrees. I don't know what that is in radians. And so this one would be 27 degrees. So let's try to get this working neatly for our first rotation control, and then let's try to add another rotation control over here. For the final rotation control, I'm just going to have to find out what that radius is, and I'll just use, Photoshop basically to measure that. Or actually, that's just basically half of the height minus half of the triangle. So actually we can do that mathematically. So half of the height minus half of the triangle, and we can see that it is at, well, it depends. I guess we could call that negative 90 degrees. Or maybe we could call it 270. One or the other. Okay, so let's first fix the code so that we're consistent in locating this one, and we'll try to move it a little bit so it's in a better location. And we'll just need to adjust our classes a little bit. So right now in the initializer, it just gets a top left location, and that's why it's drawing in a different location. And then down here in rotate, we have a bunch of magic numbers. So this 200, that's the radius, right? So we're locating it by offsetting from the center of the shape. So that's the X. And then this is our radius times math cos, and then the rotation where it is already, plus however much we're rotating by. So let's just see, first of all, if a radius of 190 as opposed to 200 just gives us a better look. So is it going to be roughly here? Okay, it's a little close. I actually think I like that better. Yeah, that's not bad. So let's try that. And so when we initialize the thing, let's see, instead of passing in an x and a y, we're going to need the center of the shape, because we're going to use this same method so that we're always drawing it in the same way. So we're going to need the center of the shape, we're going to need the radius, and we're going to need the angle. I don't know if those should be floats, probably. I don't know, if we ever end up calculating them, they might be floats. Okay, so instead of doing this, we're going to do something kind of like this. I always get in trouble when I copy paste. I have to read this carefully. So we're just going to call this shape center. And I think we should be consistent with that across our two methods. We could write a helper method to rotate or whatever, but for now I'll just do it in these two locations. Okay, so the radius is going to be 190, or the 190 is going to be the radius, and then 153, and let me jot those numbers down just so I don't forget them. Don't think I'll forget it, but angle, and we don't have a by here, it would be 0, because we're not rotating it yet. So it's just sort of our starting location. Okay, so let's put the radius in a field and the angle in a field. Let's annotate those fields. Okay, so we've got our new fields, so we have to make sure we're initializing this in the right way. So shape, center, radius, and angle when we create that, and that's in the initializer of shape. Okay, rotation control right here. Oh, this isn't being scaled correctly either, but hang on, let's fix this first. Right, I was putting it at 210. Huh, okay. So I was kind of calculating it for, okay, let's just get our parentheses lined up here. Okay. Okay, so shadow image, there should be 35 actually. I measured it in Photoshop and I had the size. I don't know if I just guessed at that. I don't know where that came from. Okay, so I'm just scaling down the shadow image for the rotation control. Again, we're not going to be seeing those in the future. They're just there while I'm developing it, so I know that they're in the right place no matter what I do with the shape. Okay, so so now I've already forgotten the order of things. I think it was center of the shape. So self.rect.center, and then the radius, which is 190. We probably shouldn't hard code these, and we should probably make those constants. Should they be constants inside shape? Do I have no annotated fields here? Oh, this is pulling. How did that happen? Okay. There's a lot of fields to annotate. Wow, I have none of them. Okay, well, we'll just annotate some fields, some constants. Okay, so let's call it, I guess, upper left, or upper, both upper controls will have the same radius. So how about upper control radius? And that's an int. And that's 190, and we'll say upper left control angle is 153. Okay. And those are those are actually not fields. Those are class level constants. Having trouble with my keyboard. Which just means they're shared by all instances of shape. So yeah, actually they really shouldn't be shared by all instances of shape, because all of the shapes will have controls in different places. And maybe they should just be separate constants somewhere, like in a separate file that we can use. Like if we change the way the game looks, we just change all of those constants. But you know what, for now, that's radius. And okay, and let's make sure I got that order correct. So it was center of the shape, and then radius and angle. Center of the shape, radius, and angle. Okay, good. So then when we come down to rotate, we're going to use self.radius. And self.angle. Okay. All right, well, I've probably forgotten something, but let's let Python find it for me. So far, no crash. Oh, hey, okay. Alrighty. So then the next thing to do is to see if we can make another one, because that's the whole point, is to make this general enough that we can have multiple controls. So let's do the upper right control. So I'll make sure that goes everywhere it needs to go. So this is kind of exciting because I haven't done this before. And we're adding some functionality now, not just making it look better. Now, what I'm wondering is, do I ever actually use self.rotation control? Or am I always using the group? And then if I am, why am I doing that? So I'm going to search for that. Okay, put it in a group. Okay, so moving. So do we have to keep it in a list? Is there a way to iterate over group members? I don't know about that. And then the rotate. Okay. Okay, let's keep it in a list for now, because I'm not sure if we can iterate over a group's members. So let's have self.rotation controls equals, and we'll create our controls that way. And then we can initialize a group with a list. So let's make 2. And here we want just upper right control angle, which we haven't defined yet. Which again, I believe is 27. Okay, and now we have to just find everywhere we had rotation control, and that will be, we don't do anything in mouse down. Check if we're in one of the rotation controls. Okay, and just here then. So for control in self.rotation controls, control move by, and then for control in self.rotation controls, control.rotate. Is that it? I mean, I hope I designed it well enough that that's it, but probably not. Well, right now we have 2. They're moving. Can still rotate with this one. So that's the awesome thing about object-oriented design, right? You design that thing, and if you design it generally enough, then you can do more. It looks like a little something with ears, like a little fox or something. Okay, well, shall we try to do one more? So let's see. The lower, oops, that wasn't the keyboard, that was me. Lower control radius, int. That I'm going to have to take a guess at, so do that in a minute. Lower control angle, and let's try 270. See if that works. I don't know if that'll work. Okay. I really want to say negative 90, but let's try 270. I just don't know if that will mess up the tangent stuff, but the arctangent stuff rather. But okay. So lower, no, it shouldn't because we're passing in coordinates when we're doing that. That should be okay. Lower control radius, let's see. Our shape size is 219 tall. Of course it's not an even number. So the center is roughly 110, 109.5, right? Center's 109.5. What did I say? The height, 35. Of course it's not an even number. So roughly 17.5 there, right? Not roughly. Minus 17.5. Okay, 92. 92. Okay, so we'll try 92. Let's see how far off we are. Okay, lower control radius, lower control angle. Let's add one more rotation control. Well, let's see. Oh, it's too low. Okay. Oh, I didn't give any space around it, that's why. Look, it fits perfectly. It did exactly what I told it to. Okay, but I need to have a little space around it. So, the question is, how much space is that? What do you think, like 5 pixels? Let's try 88. Let's try 4 pixels, see how that looks. Nope, not enough. Let's try 86. Should we go for 85 or 84? I think 84. That's a lot of space around it. Yeah, I think that looks okay. I mean, I'm going to end up drawing these. They're not going to be shown, but I want these to be basically exactly over where the control is, because you don't want the user clicking in the control, but the sprite that you have that's invisible, that's over the control, is in a different location. Did I try rotating? Yeah. That's this one, so close to the center. If you're not careful with the rotation, it can look weird, but it is doing what it's supposed to do. Alrighty, well then. So that's multiple rotation controls fixed and working. So I guess next time we're going to have to figure out how to generalize this so we can have multiple shapes. And I actually think I'm going to have to make the shapes smaller or the window a whole lot larger, because there are 2 shapes. This is a large triangle that I grabbed out of the tangrams I downloaded. There are 2 shapes this size, and then the rest are a little bit smaller, but there isn't a lot of room to move around here. So I think we actually might want to scale the whole thing. But I think what I'll do next is maybe just add one more shape. So there are 2 shapes here, and to do that I'm going to have to just do a little bit down in the main event loop. So I'm going to have like a selected shape, because right now I'm always just dealing with the large triangle. So we'll have to figure out which shape is being clicked on. That'll be the selected shape, and deselect the old selected shape, that kind of stuff. And then we're going to have to generalize the shape class a little bit. Like, again, this only applies to the triangle shape. So next time I work on the program, that's probably what we'll do. We'll add multiple shapes. So thanks for watching the video. I hope that this is useful for you, or at least fun. I think it's fun to write programs, but especially games. And I hope this helps you in your game programming. Thanks for stopping by.